Good morning. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Well, my name is Devon McKenney. I'm CEO and founder of AthloTech. And I am a huge part of the problem with youth sports. I'm a hell of a soccer coach, and all of you would want your kids to work with me, but you can't afford me. I'm extremely expensive. Just ask any of my parents. I've been taking money from them for years, but their kids are some of the best players in the area because of my training. And I have hundreds of soccer moms that want their kids to work with me. But the problem is I'm only one person. There's only so much time in the day. And I've worked with enough kids to know that training 1 day a week is not enough. You have to train every single day. And kids will do that. They're dedicated. They want to improve. But it's not like they can just go in the backyard and wave a magic wand and poof, appears their private trainer. It doesn't happen that way. And on top of that, there's no measurable data. There's nothing to show how the player's improving over time or how they did in a specific drill. And the reality is, players will work for hours on their own and have no clue whether they're doing the drill right or wrong. And more of me is not the answer. Even with all my private training experience and professional soccer experience, at the end of the day, the feedback I provide, it's just my opinion. It's subjective. And that's across the board. There are hundreds of thousands of coaches throughout the world, and each one is going to have a different opinion on how a player should look. Some are more technical, some are more tactical. Some just want those freak athletes that are just going to blow right by you, which means 1 year, little Johnny might be the stud, playing every minute of the game, scoring all the goals, and the next year, he's riding the bench. All because the coach doesn't like his style of play. How frustrating is that? The entire athletic system is flawed. Parents are spending upwards of $10,000 and sometimes more on club fees, on private training, on summer camps, and are getting nominal results. Players want to improve, but they don't have the tools to do so. They need immediate objective data. So, that's what AthloTech focused on. We're removing the bias and the opinions that come with manual observation. Players and coaches need to have an understanding of how to improve, and our data and insights can give them that understanding. Our system provides affordable, objective data with the ultimate convenience, and it's mobile. Players can train anytime, anywhere, and coaches can easily integrate it into their training sessions and games. And it all starts with our player development system, which includes a sensor-embedded soccer ball and wearables, all communicating to an app in real time. Our system is so sophisticated that it can analyze and track every movement of the player, knows what they're doing right and wrong, and provides immediate actionable insights on how to improve. So how do we make money? So that's the question. How do we make money? Well, you first have to build an ecosystem. This can't just be a standalone product that doesn't integrate with everything else. For the 30 million players here in the US and for the 300 million players throughout the world, we're going to measure their individual skills and techniques, from how hard they could shoot a soccer ball to how many times they could juggle. And all of that is going to be integrated into the app, which will use gamification to keep the users engaged. And for the clubs, we're going to measure the individual thresholds of players, who's working hard, who's not, their movement on and off the ball, quality of a player's first touch, and their passing percentage, and much, much more. A club in Raleigh, you can see how they compare to a club in Dallas, and our technology will allow them to do so. I can hook it up later. So I was going to give a little demo, and what I'll do is, I can just do it on my cell phone, and if you guys want, I can just kind of pass it around for you. So it's one thing to tell you what we do, but it's a completely different thing to show you. So we're going to give you a little snippet of our technology and do some juggling for you guys. So juggling is a very basic, fundamental drill that helps players with their balance, their coordination, but more importantly, their first touch. So what I have right here is an app that I use on some of the kids. I do private training right now to kind of pay the bills, stay afloat while I build out the startup. We have a bunch of different variations of exercises that we're using on about 150 of the kids that I privately training, from juggling to side. They're all basically ball mastery drills that helps players with their quality and their developments. Do some juggling. I did have a Chromecast to hook up here so you guys see, but I could just show you on the phone and pass around. So bear with me. Guy up here in a suit, some skinny jeans, some white sneakers. Let's see how this goes, all right? Yes, crushed it. So as you can see, I know the screen's very small and I apologize, but it counted the juggles. And so we get it.
Would it count in any of that you missed?
But it would eventually. I mean, well, the thing is with this, and is it's only going to count the ones that you actually hit.
Okay.
And once the ball drops, what's going to happen is it's going to reset itself. And then, and I'll explain a lot more further about the technology with the questions afterwards as well. So we get it. Anyone can count. But what you're not seeing is everything that's going on behind the scenes that our system is analyzing, from the spin to the speed to the heights. And all of that is going to be immediately provided to the player as feedback after they complete the drill. So some of the feedback the player might get specifically for juggling would be that you're hitting the ball too high, and you need to make sure that you're keeping it around waist heights, or that you're using your dominant foot, and you need to make sure that you're using both feet. So you can imagine the impact that this technology can have. We're starting with soccer because it's one of the most popular sports in the world, but it's also my background. From the individual players to the organizations, while training at home, in games. And it doesn't stop there, as this technology can easily be applied to other sports. The applications are endless. We are building the best in-class development system, and we are patenting every piece of our technology. We have an unbelievable team who's brought you everything you've seen here today, and not to mention a few of my advisors, from Mike Dornberg to Pete Durant to Kerry Rubin, who have all started successful companies with more than a few exits. Now, we are raising around and are looking for investors who share our excitement and passion for youth sports. And guys, our exit strategy is simple. Build something people love, and then get acquired by one of the big boys. Let's see if this clicks over. So long term, we see something bigger. Yes, we're building a game-changing system, but it's much, much more than that. It's about instilling confidence in players, not only athletically, but socially as well. It's about being able to give back to those players who may never have an opportunity. It's about removing the barriers to a player's success. Again, I'm Devon McKenney with AthloTech, and thank you guys for coming out this morning. I appreciate it.
Questions?
Yes, questions. Sorry the demo didn't work on the big TV. I apologize for that.
How does the app pick up the information from the player? Are they wired as well?
So what's going to happen is there's going to be two wearables that the player is going to be wearing on their ankles, and it's going to be about the size of a coin cell battery. And those two wearables are going to be communicating to the sensor that's actually inside of the ball. And so now we're going to be able to track basically almost every movement of the player and provide them with feedback on how they're able to improve.
So like in each sport, then the position of the sensors on the player and in the equipment they're using is going to change, right?
Yes, correct. For me, I mean, I don't know if you played sports. So me, my ankles and my tape job and how my shoes looked had to be perfect, or for some reason the confidence level in my head, I was like, okay, I'm not going to have a good game. So yeah, we're going to have to transition that to make sure that the sensors in other sports are unobtrusive with play.
You say other sports you're looking to other than soccer?
Yes, sir. As a startup, I'm sure you guys are well aware, you guys stay laser focused early on. And so I've been playing soccer since I was 4 years old, played professionally, played at one of the top Division I college programs in the country. And so we're starting with this to build out the platform, and then once we get this, then we're able to scale it into other sports.
Oh, what are you looking at as far as other sports that have measurable metrics?
Basketball is a big one. We think volleyball is an untapped market as well, and then football as well.
What about track and field?
Track and field, possibility. I mean, it all depends with the market. You know, the IoT market is massive. By 2020, there's going to be 50 billion IoT products on the market, and so I think starting with soccer is, again, that's what I know, but then the market's going to dictate where we want to move forward with.
Yeah, I was thinking of Olympic trainers.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking the same thing with swimming and all that stuff going on. But, yes, ma'am.
So how do you get the sensor in the ball? Do you have to buy the equipment with the sensor already, or is you can have your own ball and get the sensor?
So what's going to happen is we're actually going to manufacture, during the manufacturing process, the mechanical design, which is part of our patent, and the sensor technology are all going to be embedded inside of the ball during the practice. So you're not going to even know that there's a sensor inside of it. It's not going to affect the play, the durability, the spin, none of that. You're not even going to notice that it's there.
How are you doing with your impact engineering?
It's the sensors that we're going to be using. It's not going to really affect the impact. I mean, the soccer kick's probably one of the hardest. Is right around 27 to 30 G's of force.
Right.
However, those sensors inside that we're using are not going to be affected at all.
Good.
So have you implemented it any place? What kind of reaction do you get from the coaches?
So the coaches that I've spoken to absolutely love it. We're not beta testing with the coaches quite yet because the technology's not there. However, from just preliminary discussions that we've had, we have about 10 clubs that are signed up that are like, hey, once this thing gets going and you're ready for us to beta test it, we want to be part of it because we see the huge applications that we're able to implement within our training sessions and to help with the development of our players.
Okay, because it could go either way. When you talk about removing the bias of the coach from the observing player, then it's like, I'm not messing with that
Yeah.
high-tech crap. I know what I'm doing.
There's going to be some of those coaches that are a little bit against, that are a little bit more old school, that are set in their ways, but I think the new wave of player development is with this technology moving forward. And kids nowadays, I mean, you know how it is. They're out there stuck on their iPods since they're 3 years old. So.
And it will work with every device, the
Mhm.
Android, the iPod.
Yeah, yes, we'll have everything from like you mentioned, the Android to the iOS. Yes, ma'am.
After the data collection and analysis, where does the recommendations for improvement come from? Is that also generated by the app, or does it then go to a coach?
Mm-hmm. So everything is going to be generated by the application. And so that's what we want to do is we want to make this as seamless as possible. So the coaches aren't just going to get bombarded with data points and be like, well, what am I supposed to do with these? Or vice versa with the kids in the backyard or out at the field. Everything is going to be streamlined so that after they're done with a drill or after the coaches are done with a training session, they're going to have a complete understanding of what their players did that day and how they're able to implement that into the next training session. Or for the player's perspective on what they need to work on moving forward.
Will that be in one, say you've got a team of 11 or 30 players, will that all come up on one screen, or do they have to go to each individual device to get it?
It's just dependent upon how we build out the GUI. Again, we're still working on that with our front-end designer and how we want to feel as if the GUI is the most effective for the coaches and the organizations. But each player is going to have the sensors on their ankles, and so now the coaches are going to be able to track every movement of the player during the training session.
Does everybody know what a GUI is?
It's a graphical user interface, and so what it is when you open up an app and you're like, oh wow, this looks really good, that's a GUI.
So how are you going to segment the sensors so that you got multiple sensors?
So each sensor is going to have its own unique identification, and so now player number 2 has ID 0023. We're going to know that that sensor was specifically catered to that player. Any questions?
Do you sense any resistance of using these sensors in a regulated game?
I think there's going to be some drawback. Obviously, it's taken a while for FIFA. FIFA is the governing body of soccer to implement goal line technology, and it takes a lot of the bigger brands to implement it into the sports. I mean, NFL just implemented sensors into their goalpost technology. So there might be a little bit of drawback, but again, I think this is the new wave of where the sports are going. We are starting with individual players, and then we're going to move our way up from the youth to the collegiate, and then we'll get into professional ranks as well.
I had an experience with that.
Yes, sir.
I brought the first local area network to an Army unit in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and I was walking by a 2-story building, and they threw a computer at me.
Like, all right, I need to get out of here. Yes, ma'am.
In that brilliant mind of yours, can you imagine maybe transferring that technology to young instrumentalists playing their instruments, maybe how fast they're moving, how their fingers move?
I have to admit, I'm musically inclined, and I can't even play Rock Band. But I do see applications for that now that you mentioned it. It wouldn't come from this mind of mine because I have no clue.
Okay.
But if we could possibly bring on some other people, definitely, for sure. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to expand into that market.
Yeah, because that feedback is so important,
Mhm.
that bio feedback that the athletes are getting, musicians, are athletes in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm almost jealous of them.
All right.
So I know I came in a little late. Was there a cost that you're looking at as far as you're looking at getting it out? I've got a son, he's 8. His build is more of that of a center than most of the soccer players I see. But, you know, if I was looking at something like this, what is it looking at costing the consumers?
Yeah, correct. So from all the parents that we've spoken to, which includes a lot of the parents that I do private training for, we're going to sell this ball at $99, and then we're going to have a monthly subscription fee of right around $7.99 for all the data collection and for all the feature set that we have included.
And would that include the app itself and
Yeah.
the sensors and everything?
It's everything. So it's going to include the sensor-embedded soccer ball, the wearables that the players would wear on their ankles, as well as the mobile application.
And so I'm assuming there's a storage for the application, so you could improve on your weakness. So if you were kicking the ball too high and you tried to improve on that, you could go back and measure that with the
Yes,
app?
so everything is going to be stored on the cloud. That's where a lot of the data analysis and the algorithms that we're developing are going to be stored. And so there's going to be a history timeline. So for example, if your son or daughter played soccer and they went out three months ago and they did these specific drills. And now what happens is they come in today and they do that same exact drills. They can then go back and see how they improved. So mentally that helps with their confidence level. Not only, like I mentioned in the pitch, it helps with them when they're out on the field saying, okay, I'm getting better. But now that can also help with them when they're at school or they're going to lunch or whatever it is socially. They feel more confident just because of the abilities of them to be better during their training session. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think there's some data missing? I was just thinking about eye-foot coordination, and it doesn't seem like sensors would pick up other parts of the body that maybe move differently.
Correct. So the problem is that it can be done. You can do it through motion capture technology, but the problem is you're going to have those sensors on their shoulders, because I looked into it. That was one of before I even went with this basic product, that's what I looked into, is motion sensor technology. But they're going to have sensors on their elbows. Kids can't even keep track of their socks. How are they going to keep track of all these sensors that they need to be outfitted with when they go to the field?
Put it in their socks.
Yes, you could.
How do you build it in?
Yes.
You know, then it'll be in somebody's truck or something.
Yeah, exactly, and the sensor's gonna be sparking. But there's ways that we're working on that we could possibly implement the development of algorithms to make up for the movement of the shoulders and the upper body and how they move.
You're a young man, and so you've got a career in front of you.
I hope so.
We started with DOS,
Mm-hmm.
okay? 64K was enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now look where we're at.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and so you're at the leading edge of this technology. I can see everybody's trying to think of where it's going, and from what you've shown me, you'll be there.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate
You'll
that.
be there.
Thank you.
Stay focused on your core technology.
Yes, there's a lot of opinions of going different ways, but I think we can expand, but you just got to make sure you make it into soccer and not being pulled in other directions early on.
Right.
You'll never make it.
Is there any competition out there?
Yes, there is a company on the West Coast. They're about 6 months ahead of us, maybe. Yeah, startup. They're not on the market yet. Adidas does have a ball on the market. Okay. Yes, I know they're Adidas. You're like, oh my gosh, why are you even competing against them? But the problem is with their technology, and I would have embarked on this, going to be a 2-year journey to get this thing to market if I didn't think we could do something better. And so Adidas, what their ball does, it only focuses on elite level players pertaining to dead ball free kicks. And so what I mean by that is, you notice how I was juggling, the ball was moving and it was counting. Adidas's ball can't do that. What they do, all it is it's stationary. They kick the ball. It gives them just generic data points, and that's all. It doesn't give them any appropriate feedback on how or why or what they did was right or wrong. It's just, okay, this is the spin rate, this is the trajectory, this is the speed, now you figure it out. And at the end of the day, I know everyone's, Adidas, the big boys, but Adidas is an apparel manufacturer. They're not a technology company. They're not going to put together a sales force to go and speak with these clubs about their SaaS models that they have. And so that's where I think us as a smaller startup is able to hopefully beat them to the market if they decide to pivot and really see something in this market. Hopefully we beat them and then they buy us.
And in fact, the example of that is when we went to laptop computers in Europe, we were buying Zenith. Zenith no longer exists, okay? And your point is well taken, that at the time, the best word processor in the world was Wang, and Wang no longer exists. IBM has taken over, so your focus is well placed.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Any other questions?
So how are you marketing the business?
Right now, because we're still in early alpha, kind of proof of concept right now, like I mentioned, we are raising a round of funding, and that funding is going to help us basically further develop and bring our product to markets. And so from a marketing perspective, we're not doing a lot of marketing. It's just more word of mouth, just me speaking with my soccer network and getting feedback from those coaches that are running clubs up in Ohio or down in Florida, or even the parents that I train that their 7-year-old son is playing soccer and traveling to Spain. And so those are the parents that we're getting the feedback from, as well as the coaches. So not so much marketing right now. It's just more getting feedback from audience members like yourself, and then really getting the financials in place to get our round going.
And I can see where a big market is going to be with the soccer clubs and that kind of thing. There's also a lot of parents who have Johnny who wants to play, and he's not at that level. He needs to get there, where this product would help him get to that level where he can start playing with schools or clubs or whatever. And
Correct.
that's another huge market.
Correct, absolutely. Because there's a big, for those of you that have sons and daughters in sports, there's a huge disconnect from the coaching capabilities of the elite level player and then down to the second tier and third tier. So there's this massive gap that if the second tier player keeps going on with that coaches, they're never able to catch up to that elite level player, because that elite level player has the elite level coaching.
Yep.
And so they're just further broadening the gap, and they're never going to be able to catch up. So that's one of the massive problems in the sports industry, at least from the youth perspective. Yes, sir.
Now, you've got the ball and the sensors. Are they dedicated to one another, or if I have a team, one ball going to work with all of their sensors?
Can I snatch your data?
Can you snatch my data?
In other words, you've got it linked to that machine. Can I hack your data?
I'm sure you could hack it. I'm not building a massive firewall around this. To your points, yeah, so one ball, like the gentleman mentioned, each player is going to have a unique ID tag to their sensors. And so that ball, if it comes in touch, for example, to me, and I have this ID, my first touch pops out and it goes 10 yards. I'm going to know that that's a bad touch, and I can report the data is going to pick up on that and report that back to the feedback that's provided to the coach during or after the training session.
So the app's that sophisticated that it can transfer that? Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
Because I was thinking about with basketball in particular.
Correct.
You're not going to use multiple balls.
No. Yeah, one ball will work with multiple angle sensors.
So if the kid's practicing by himself, then he gets to keep that data and give it to the coach, or he can read it himself, or his parents can read it to know that he's not, to keep it from practicing bad habits.
Correct. So what we're going to do is, because one of the questions that came up in a prior pitch that I gave is, okay, well, why are the drills and the feedback that you're doing, what makes it right? Well, basically, I'm taking my brain and putting it into an app, but we're also going to be partnering with U.S. Soccer Federation and their youth development curriculum, so that we know, okay, this is how the U.S. Soccer Federation wants their youth players to develop. And so now our applications and our drills and everything that we put together are going to go hand in hand with their curriculum. So that's kind of that's one feature that we're able to implement as well.
And the last question for
Yes,
me,
sir.
will you have comparisons on there so the player can see where the elite players are in the same drill?
Yeah, that's where the whole gamification comes into play. And so if your son or daughter is out practicing in the backyard, they're going to be able to see how they compare to other 10-year-olds out in California or in Spain or England. And to touch base on your last question is, we're going to have a homework feature. And so what's going to happen is coaches, basically within 3 to 5 clicks, can generate homework for their entire team for the entire season. So basically what will happen is the player gets a notification at the beginning of the weeks that's, okay, I need you to do these drills. And those drills are based off of the player's previous scores and their strengths and weaknesses. And so now, after they complete those drills, then it's sent to the coach. So they are able to look at the feedback as well.
Is the data captured and stored in the ball or in the device?
So we're going to have a little bit of onboard memory because of the Bluetooth. You're only going to probably get about 15 meters if that.
Mhm.
And so let's say they're working on shooting and the ball goes to the goal. They'll have to go grab it, bring it back, and once it gets into that range, then the onboard memory will release into the cloud, and then that's where all the data interpretation will take place for them to send it to the mobile device.
So on the comparison thing, and at my previous world, I taught school. And so thinking of, you mentioned averages. Within a team, would they be able to see what Johnny's doing and Fred is doing and whatever? Because while for some students that may have a positive effect as they're wanting to work as hard as whatever, there are kids that will have a horribly negative effect. I will never be as good as Bill. I'll never be as good as, and so there could be some psychological, emotional ramifications with that. So I would just caution, I think having something to compare yourself to and a goal to achieve is a good thing. But how detailed you get into it and whether a team can see everybody on the team, or like they could compare themselves to a team average or something like that. But I would caution against being able to see.
No, that's a very good point, well taken. And I'm sure there's ways that we could limit the drills or how they compare to certain players, just so that doesn't affect what the players' psychology in a negative manner, for sure.
Where did you play your college and professional?
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, so I played at the University of Akron.
Go Cavs.
There you go. Caleb Porter, who's now the head coach of the Portland Timbers, is one of the coaches that recruited me. And unfortunately, the previous year I left, they ended up winning the national championship the year after. So lovely. So I feel like I laid the foundation for all the other national team players coming in. And then I got picked up by the Columbus Crew in the MLS, and then I ended up, after some injuries, ended up coming down here and playing with the Carolina Hawks. And after fracturing my foot, fracturing my hip, I'm like, all right, enough's enough. Gotta get into the real world.
Didn't know the ball was that hard.
Yeah, right, it's crazy. Little stress fractures, gotta love it.
Any other questions? Okay, then I'm gonna take the last one, and I know you've heard this one before, so you should be ready for this one.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
What can we as a community do to help you?
So the big thing for me as a startup is we are looking for investors, like I mentioned in the pitch, who want to see this thing get to markets. We have our PCB developments engineering firm on board. We have a mechanical design firm on board. We have the manufacturing in place over in Pakistan. So we have everything in place. We have the appropriate team. We just need those investors that see the vision, that believe in us as an organization, that believe in me as a CEO who has the ability to make this thing come to fruition. And so the investors is our #1 focus right now.
Have you pitched to the angel investors?
I've pitched at a Riot convention. I've pitched at another 1 Million Cups. Some of the angels, they like the products. I just spoke with a couple of the angels the other day. We're a little bit too early for the angels. I think they need to see a little bit more substance with the technology, and obviously it's a, catch-22 here. Okay, well, if I build more technology, I don't need your money, because then I can get to market myself. So it's one of those things that's you.
Big R, little D.
Yes, it's unfortunate. It's the life of a startup with that.
What about crowdfunding?
We are building out a Kickstarter campaign for that, and so it's just now making sure that we have videographers on points, because you don't want to go to Kickstarter, because Kickstarter itself is a full-time job to make sure that you build the network appropriately, you make sure that you have all the influencers ready to go, so that once you launch, you have 10,000 people going to that Kickstarter campaign right now. So we are building out the Kickstarter stuff.
Where are you in the patenting process?
We filed a patent about a couple months ago. So we filed a provisional. We are patent pending. And those of you that are familiar with patents, it's a long process. So we probably won't hear for another 12 to 18 months about our patent. But we did do a landscape search before we even went ahead and filed it. And so it is a crowded space. There is a lot of prior art out there. But speaking with our mechanical design firm and a lot of the engineers that we've been working with, the patent that we filed, we're pretty confident that we're able to hopefully get it.
So we're gonna see you on Shark Tank one day?
Possibly.
Where's your company located? How do we get back in touch with you if we have somebody?
Yeah, I have business cards, so I'll be more than happy to pass them out to you guys. But I'm based out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
So about how much you raise?
So right now, we have committed about 60,000. What's going to happen is we're going to need about 150 in total to really just kind of get us out of the gates. And that basically brings us to beta, a true working market type beta in 4 to 6 months. But to get to market, we're going to need about 500,000 in total, maybe even a little bit more.
Shark Tank.
Anybody got any last questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you,
Sounds
Devin.
good. Thank you so much, guys.